We are so glad to have everyone with us this morning, especially if you're visiting with us. Pray that you'll be notes this morning. You might raise your hand. We got some ushers back there. Be glad to bring those to your pew. But I think this lesson will mean a whole lot more to you if you had the sermon notes to kind of follow along. So just hold those hands up and we'll have them delivered to you. So I know some came in these other doors and they're not available. Matthew 5:13. Our lesson this morning is about Christian influence. Christian influence. I'm convinced that the most underestimated thing that we have, as far as our life is concerned, is our Christian influence. And the thing about that is, the thing that's so important about Christian influence is, if we miss this, we sort of miss it all. Because as a Christian, we're to be influencing other people all the time, and things as far as our world's concerned. Now, many are very disgruntled and upset about things that happen in the world this time. They're right down here some more. And they don't know what to do about it. But this is what you do about it. Now, if you focus in this morning, a lot of your anxiety, your worry, your concern about what's happening in our society will go away. Because I'm thoroughly convinced that with news and political things that are happening and all the kinds of things happening with school shootings and all kinds of things, we get to think about, what can we do, what can we do, what can we do? And eventually people think, it's too big, it's too large, there's too much going on, I can't do anything. No, there's something that you can do, and something you must do, and it's something that's important that you do. And if you don't do this, you're part of the problem instead of part of the solution, you see. Because as we study Christ, we study His teachings, He says, here's what you do. But oftentimes, as preachers and teachers and Bible students, we make it way too complicated. People go, well, I don't know what that's all about, but I just want to do something. Jesus is saying here today, this is what you do. It's all about your influence. Not just about my influence, everybody else's influence, it's all about your influence. Every person in here that's a Christian today, it's about your influence. When you look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, Jesus simply says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses flavor, how shall it be salted? It is then good for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled under the foot of men. Now that one little verse, there's so much packed into that, but oftentimes we just see it, that's a little verse, we've heard that before, let's go on to something else. No, we need to back up. We need to slow down. We need to internalize and think about, what is he saying right here? What's this really all about? Well, this morning I want to share with you some of the characteristics of salt. If you miss this, if you haven't gotten this yet, don't misunderstand. Many of you haven't gotten it yet. That's where your fear, your frustration, your confusion is coming from. You don't understand salt, you see. But to understand salt, and what he's saying here, we've got to go, okay, what are the characteristics of salt? Many think that the United States has been settled, the country has been settled by salt. Salt. Way back there years ago, the buffalo would run. Thousands and thousands of buffalo would run around our country. And the buffalo hunters would follow the buffalo around the country. And they kill the buffalo and get the hides and get the bones and get all the things about the buffalo. But every time they did, a few of those people would stay there because they'd kill thousands of buffalo, and they would stay and they'd make settlements. But the buffalo were running from salt lick to salt lick. That's what they were doing. And the hunters and their families would run from salt lick and go, and they would settle down to those salt licks, you see. So actually, salt is what settled the country. Or people started living in different parts of the country instead of all clustered up in one place. Now, some of you don't know what this is. But for years, I've been wanting to share this. And so yesterday, I went out to Atwoods and bought me a block of salt. This is not my first block of salt. I'm a rancher, just like some of y'all are. Farmers, ranchers know exactly what this is. See? And they know how heavy these things are. But when you use salt, you see, we use salt on the ranch. We use it with our cattle. We use it with our horses and sheep and things because they need salt. Nothing can take the place of salt, you see. And as you think about salt and how valuable it is, we realize this is what it's really all about. Now, sometimes Jesus gave things in lessons, and people just passed over. Well, what was that about? They walk away and never do understand. And I'm convinced that wasn't just Jesus in lessons, that's us in lessons. Because we go, okay, that was about salt, or that's about light. But this morning we want to talk about salt. What is the characteristics of salt? First of all, it's absolutely necessary. Your first place there is necessary. Absolutely necessary. You cannot exist without salt. There are certain things in our lives we have to exist. One of those things is water, one's food, one's light, one's air, and one is salt. This just simply means that every Christian is very necessary and very important. Every Christian. God, the world is depending on you and your salt. Now, as you think about this, you get to think about this in two ways. One way is other people depending on us, but we're also depending on other people. It's completely necessary. Salt is completely necessary. Can't live without it. But it also works at expense of itself. Salt works. Your word there is expense. Salt works at expense of itself. The only way salt works is, the only way a salt block works is at expense of itself. It's got to be licked, you see. It's got to be used by the cattle. It's got to be used by the horses, you see. It's got to be licked. But salt is that way. Everything about salt is about the expense of itself. And as you think about this, Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. And He died for the lost. At the expense of Himself, salvation cost you your life. Romans 6 says, unless we die to ourselves, we can't live for Him. It's at expense of ourselves. Now, this is where the rub really comes in for us oftentimes. Not because of salt, but because we miss it, see. We want to live the Christian life, but not to the expense. So if we don't want it to cost anything, it always costs something, you see. There's always a sacrifice to be made. We have to use. Salt has to be used as far as its use is concerned. One of the saddest scriptures in the Bible to me is 2 Corinthians 12:15. This is Paul talking about the church at Corinth. He says, I will very gladly be spend and be spent for your souls. Though the more abundantly I love you, the less I am loved. Did you get what he said? Paul is saying, I will spend and be spent for your souls, for you. But the more I love you, the less I'm loved. Do you see the expense of that for Him? Now, so many times we want to go, well, I'm good to other people. Why don't other people be good to me? No, it doesn't work that way. You be good to other people, and other people take advantage of you. The old term adage, no good turn goes unpunished. That's the way it works. But that's also the way it works with salt. If you're going to use it, you see, it costs to live the Christian life. Now, sometimes we are so determined we're going to have a carefree life and an easygoing life, and easy does it, until we go, no, I'm not going to do it. And the salt doesn't work. The salt is not happening as far as our lives are concerned. But we must come in contact with the substance to preserve it and give it flavor. You next make there's contact. Salt does no good until it comes in contact with the substance. It has to come in contact with the substance in order for it to do good and be able to do its job. We must be in contact with the lost, with other people. Isn't it amazing how often we think, well, I could do just fine if it wasn't for other people? Why do I have to put up with other Christians? Many today are not here watching this over television, not watching it at all. You stay at home because they don't want to contact with other Christians. You're thinking, what's the deal about that? A step further than that, many don't want to come and contact with the lost. If I hang around those kind of people, look at the lifestyles, look at the things they're doing. Jesus hung around those kind of people. You see, He hung around the lost. Not because to have evil companions and those kind of things, but also He knew in order for salt to do it work, He had to be with them. You got to be with them, you see. We got to be with each other. That's the reason our services are so important and our coming together is so important. Our fellowship is so important. If you're not going to be here tonight, what you're saying is, I don't want to be with the brethren. I don't want to come in contact with them. Oh, I got other things to do. No. Salt comes in contact with the substance. To work and be salty, it has to be in contact with other people. And not just once in a while, ongoing in contact with others. But another characteristic of salt is it preserves and prevents. It preserves and prevents. Now, don't miss that one. You probably already thought of this one. When you put salt on meat, it'll keep it from rotting, you see. It'll preserve the meat, and it'll prevent it from rotting. Sodom and Gomorrah, remember those two cities that were destroyed because they were so immoral and terrible things were going on. And Lot and his family were there. But they could have been saved had it been for men. There was salt in that city. They were told, if you could just find these men, you'll be saved. But there weren't those men there, you see. I'm thoroughly convinced in our society, in our world today, the sole reason the United States is still standing, we have every reason to have fallen already, but we're still standing because of salt, because of your life, because of people who are standing up for what's right and doing what's right. But don't think it can't fall away, you see. When we stop being salty, this very verse says, when you lose your saltiness, it'll go away. You've got to continue to stand strong, keep your salt, but you won't do that if you don't focus on these things and focus on being salt. Focus on your influence. Help your children, your grandchildren see the value and the importance of their influence. You're influencing me, and I'm influencing you. We're influencing others for good or for bad, you see. Now, if you've been influencing people for bad, it's time to turn it over, you see. You can still do it. There's still time. But if you're influencing people for good, don't underestimate it. That can wither away too. And many are withering away. Many are falling away from the church. Many are falling away from Christianity because they're not seeing the value of their influence and the influence of other people as far as that's concerned. Prevents. Another thing it does is it purifies. Number 5 is it purifies. It helps a cut. A cut will purify a lot faster, or a wound as far as that's concerned. Any physical thing that happens as far as your skin is concerned by a cut. Years ago, my brother and I were working in the hospital. My brother got a sore throat. And we were with doctors all the time. And so he asked his doctor, he said, Doc, I got a sore throat. What do you prescribe for a sore throat? The doctor said, would you like to get well or spend some money? He said, well, I'd like to just get well. He said, salt water. Use some warm salt water. Gargle with salt water. That'll get your sore throat well. I can't tell you how many people through the years, that was years ago, that I've told, they said, I got a sore throat. Use salt water. Use salt water. It'll help you, see. Because it purifies. It helps things get well. We are to be pure. We're to be pure. Now, for salt, if you're salt, you've got to be pure to be salt. Salt does not work if it's mixed with other things. You see, we've got to be pure. Pure in heart. Pure as far as our life is concerned. 2 Timothy 4, verse 12 says, Let no one despise your youth, but be an example of the believer in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. Purity. Do you really want to do something about the world situation? Do you really want to? Are you really serious? If you're serious about it, you'll try to be as pure as you could possibly be. Pure in everything, you see. Pure in our speech, pure in our love, pure in our attitudes, pure in our behaviors, pure in our morals. How pure can we be? But we'll not only try to be pure, we'll try to get our children to be pure, you see. That's where the saltiness comes from and how important it is. Another thing salt does is it can destroy. Now, salt gives health. It can help us heal. It can preserve, but also salt can destroy. I can remember so many times going with my grandfather out on the ranch where I live. We'd take the salt blocks and put them out. And I'd look around out there and see the dirt out around where the salt blocks have been. After it rained on the salt blocks and after the salt blocks had melted and things, and see how dead the grass was. And everything around the salt block was dead. If you want to kill grass, just put salt on it. It'll kill it, you see. Salt not only gives life, but it also destroys. It can destroy. It can cause high blood pressure. Hear that one? You ever heard your doctor say that? Stay away from the salt. The salt causes high blood pressure. High blood pressure will kill you. We're to destroy evil if we're salt. Now, there's things we're to build and to help with, but there's also things we're to destroy in being salt. And we will destroy being salt. But the thing we're destroying is evil and sin around us. In Ephesians 5, verse 11, it says, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them, you see. He says, don't have fellowship with the darkness and the bad things, but expose them. If you're living a salty life, you're exposing sin for sin. This is what's wrong. This is what matters. You know the difference in right and wrong. And you know how to help people understand the difference in right and wrong if you're salt. If you're not salt, it really doesn't matter. But don't be fooled, because you are what you are. You're doing what you're doing because you're thinking like you're thinking. You must start thinking salt. Salt. Keep this ever before you. Everything I'm doing today is along the lines of trying to get you to think in terms of salt. How can I be the salt that I need to be, you see? How can I get the salt I need to get? Am I really being salty? We're going to be careful if we do, because we realize salt also has to kill. It has to expose sin around it. Several months ago, I was studying with a couple from out of town. They come over here every week, and I studied with them. In the process of the study, they said, after we've been studying for several months, they said, you know, we've noticed since we started studying with you, we've lost half of our friends. I said, really? And the guy said, wait a minute, it's not about studying with you. Since we started applying these principles to our lives, about half our friends got to where they don't want to be with us anymore. And the lady said, but we got better friends than them now, you see. Well, that's what works. It exposes sin. They're not partying in the same places, not drinking the same place, not doing the same thing, you see. Well, if you're not exposing sin, you're probably going along with sin, you see. You're going along with it. Be careful, because your salt is so important. Your influence is so important. And sometimes you don't have to say anything when it's happening. Just don't say anything because it's happening. Don't go along with it. Don't laugh at their jokes. Don't do the same things they're doing. Don't look at the pornography and the things they're doing. Expose sin. Salt destroys and exposes sin, as far as that's concerned. Another thing it does, it creates thirst. Have you noticed how when you drink salt or you have salt, take salt pills, you get thirsty? Eating pretzels or bacon and things like that have salt on them, popcorn. It causes us to get thirsty. Some people make us want to live better. Salt makes people want to live better, you see. If my life is not causing people to want to live better, I'm probably not being the salt I think I am. If your life is not causing people to want to live better. It's interesting in 1 Peter 3, verse 1. Ladies, you might want to mark this in your Bible. 1 Peter 3, verse 1. It says, wives, sanctify your husbands with your good behavior. Wives, sanctify your husbands. What's that about? It's about be salt. If a wife is salt, you see, she lives that life before him. She encourages him. He'll come much nearer to doing the right thing, you see. So many men I've known have said, Rod, I was a terrible person. I was an ungodly person. But I married a godly woman. Or this woman became godly. She set this example for me. She taught our children. And now I'm trying to do the same thing. What he was saying was, she was salt. Now I'm trying to be salt too. If your husband is not salt like he ought to be, don't nag him and don't aggravate him and don't be harsh and hard on him. Just show him by your manner of life. Show him by your love. Show him by your purity, your honesty. Teach him how to be honest with you. The most important ingredient in all relationships, our relationship with God, our relationship with each other, our relationship with our mates, is trust. Trust. Salt teaches people the importance of value. And it doesn't just talk about trust. It's trustworthy. It shows what trust really is. It not only creates thirst, but it also gives flavor. Salt flavors things. That's the reason we value salt so much. We can bring joy into people's lives by serving them and helping them. It's amazing how often we use the salt to give this just a little bit of flavor or more flavor as far as it's concerned. Using the salt. Your life is giving people flavor. See? Have you noticed how some people, you can spend just a few minutes with them and they're just so harsh and so hard and so hateful and so selfish, and you're thinking, I don't know how long I could take this. Other people, you spend a day with them, a week with them, all the time with them, and you go, what is it about this person? They're salt, you see. It's amazing how that we're affecting other people's lives for the good or for the bad. But also another thing that salt does is it blends. It blends. Salt blends food. And how well we can get along with other people. We need to be able to get along with other people without dominating other people. How well are you at getting along with other people? You see, real salt is about blending. Now, our tendency is to isolate. We don't like what somebody else is doing, just get away from them. But real salt blends. It doesn't take on the characteristics of unhealthy and unsavory people. At the same time, it goes, wait a minute, what can we do to make this better as far as our lives are concerned? One of the little experiments I've done through the years, and working so much in construction, welding and nuclear plants and things of that nature, is watching my crew change. The guys I worked with. Usually you have a welder, a helper, a layout man, and sometimes two welders working together in a shop, in a crew. But watching them change, even though the rest of the shop wouldn't necessarily change, but watching, because on a daily basis, as you give them salt, and you show them respect, you care for them, you encourage them, you show them Jesus. You see, slowly but surely, the profanity goes away, the sexual innuendos go away, all the terrible things, people's attitudes go away. It's amazing. But your salt does that. But if it's not doing that, you're not getting it. You're not understanding the value of blending as far as salt's concerned. The last thing it does is it makes a difference. Salt always makes a difference. Difference between tasteful food and bland food. It makes a difference. Now, I know some of you really love your salt, but it's not really the salt you like so much. It's because the salt makes the food taste better, you see. Nothing wrong with that. At the same time, overdoing the salt is something we've got to be careful about. But it's amazing how often I've heard people say, oh, this would be great, but just needs a little bit of salt. It's amazing how it makes a difference. Jesus always, you might want to circle this on your notes there, Jesus always made a difference. Jesus always made a difference. Salt always makes a difference. Not just once in a while, it always makes a difference. If you want a different relationship with your father, with your mother, with your children, with your mate, with your enemies, you be salt. You be salt. It's almost like they can't resist it. They won't know why they're feeling or acting the way they are. They're just going, this is different. What's the matter with this? They might not even be doing that to other people as far as it's concerned. But they're doing it with you, you see. Because that's what salt does. Salt makes a difference. Acts 10, verse 38, talking about Jesus, says, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with the power, who went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. Notice what he did. Jesus went about doing good. If this wasn't a worship service this morning, but this was your funeral this morning, this wasn't the Lord's table right here, this is your casket this morning, we're here to commemorate your life. Could the preacher say, she's a person that went around doing good? Always doing, he's a person who goes around doing good. Everybody knows this is a person who is always doing good. Or would they go, well, we'd like to say some good things, some flowery things, but we know this person really wasn't that concerned about. Jesus always did good. See, real salt makes a difference. He goes about doing good. And then the point we're getting to with our whole lesson this morning is Christians can make a huge difference wherever they are. Your next blank there's wherever. Now try this. Wherever you're at. Ladies, I've got nothing against the beauty shop. I think beauty shops are wonderful. But boy, some of the talking goes on in those beauty shops. You know what I'm talking about. It's almost as bad as a barber shop. Don't participate in that. Don't add to that, you see. Because oftentimes people just sitting there, they're not thinking. Think before you talk. Think when wherever you're at, whether it's a beauty shop, next door neighbor, drinking coffee with your buddies, whatever it is, think about it. Go, wait a minute, what's the deal right here? If there's just one person there that's needing salt, you're responsible for it, and I'm responsible for it. We need to be helping them and encouraging them, building them up, inviting them, making them feel welcome and valuable. Paul, as he traveled, as he was in jail, when he was home, he always made a difference wherever he was at. No matter where you are and what's going on, these qualities that we listed above are so important if we're really going to be salt, really going to change our world. But the second thing we need to realize is Christians can fall away. Your word there is fall. We can fall and be lost. As valuable, as wonderful as salt is, we can fall away. If we think about salt, there's just two classes of people in here this morning. People that are salt and people that are falling away. Or there may be a class where you're almost about to fall away or leaning toward that. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. You're the salt of the earth, and if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled out underfoot. She said, okay, here's the thing about salt. It's valuable, but if it loses its saltiness, it's not of value anymore. Now, as you think about this morning, as I've been talking about this morning, you probably thought about people, hopefully not yourself, but you thought about people that lost their saltiness. They're not salty anymore. They're not really affecting other people's lives anymore for the good and helping as far as that's concerned. By portraying these Beatitudes is the way we do it. Poor in spirit, being mourners, meek, righteous, merciful, pure in heart, happy to be persecuted. Those are all the things he talks about in the Sermon on the Mount. That's what salt does. Jesus said, this is what it's really all about. But he's not just talking about these things. That's what he did and what he continues to do today. By losing its qualities of these things above, when we lose these things, we've lost our influence as far as life's concerned. We can be destroyed by constant exposure. Next blank there's exposure to sin and Satan. Constant exposure to sin and Satan. I thought about this in preparing this lesson. It's so important we study and we think about Jesus. Keep our main focus on Him, but also don't underestimate Satan. Satan knows exactly what to do to cause you to lose your saltiness or to keep people from being salt as far as it's concerned. 1 John 2, 15 through 17. Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of flesh, the pride of life, the lust of the eye, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but of the world. And this world is passing away, and the lust thereof of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. Notice what John is saying here. He says, watch out for these things. 3 categories of sin. Every sin is involved in these three categories. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. That's what causes people to lose their saltiness. Most people that have lost their saltiness, most people that have been Christians and fallen away, fell into one of those 3 categories or all 3 of them, as far as that's concerned. In the Middle East, those countries have layers of salt. The salt even comes out on top of the ground. And this is what they're thinking about as Jesus is preaching this sermon and giving this lesson. They're thinking about the salt that they've seen as far as the world is concerned and their area is concerned. But when it's exposed to the sun and the rain, it loses its saltiness. When the Christian's continually exposed to the world, we lose our saltiness. That's the reason it's so important that we fellowship and we be together. And we spend time together. I'm so thankful to be a part of a congregation where we spend so much time together. Not just in assembly. That's great and important. We should do that and make an emphasis of that. But also, just like last night. I want to commend y'all that came out last night to help. And some of you couldn't come. But boy, I just stood around and just watched the saltiness last night as people fellowship. We was unloading those trucks and trailers out here in the alley. I thought, wow, this is what it's all about. We need to unload at least 1 truck a week. So everybody has a chance to. Or if you come and work in the pantry. Or if you're with the card ladies, work card ladies. See, all that's important because that's the time when we can we can get salt from other people and be salt to other people. But we've got to be together to do those things. Don't underestimate those things. Because so many times we're around things of the world that destroys the salt. We need to be around each other like we are to have the salt. Then in closing, I want to share with you Matthew 13, 41 and 42. 41 and 42. The Son of Man will send out His angels, and they will gather out of the kingdom all things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them in the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jesus says, in judgment, this is what's going to happen. He's going to gather everyone together, and the saints will be saved. And then he'll cull out the ones that haven't been. Really what he's saying is, the ones that haven't been salt, they'll be culled out, you see. So if that's the case, he's saying, be careful. Don't lose your saltiness. If we're not influencing for good, your blank there is good, we'll be cast out. If we're not being influenced for good, we'll be cast out. What's your words? What's your behavior? What's your thoughts? What's your attitudes? What's your motives, you see? Because all these things are having to do for good or for evil. If you're here today and you've lost your saltiness, and you can't really say that people are impressed by your life because you live in the Christian life, then you're causing people not to have saltiness, you see. You're drawing away from you. Don't complain about the world and what's going on in the world. Don't complain about Satan and what all he's doing if you're not being salt, you see. You've got no place for complaint, you see. But if you're being salt, then you won't complain either, because you're going, no, wait a minute, I'm doing what I can do. On a daily basis, people I'm coming in contact with, people who come in contact with me, they're seeing the salt. They're getting to experience that. In my family, the people I'm working with, people I'm around, people I go to church with. That's what it's all about. Stop complaining about what's happening in the world and hype up to being salty. How salty can I be, you see? And saltiness oftentimes doesn't even make any noise. It doesn't even talk. It doesn't even say anything, you see. All the time I've been up here, this block has not said one thing, you see. Salt oftentimes works in silence, you see. It's working though, you see. It's present. It's presence. Its presence is today. And the reason I put this up here so its presence will impress you, not with me, but with salt, you see. Think about it. It's all about the salt. I either have the salt and making things better because of salt, or I've lost my saltiness. I had it one time, I lost it, or I never have had it before, you see. If you're not a Christian today, you're not salt. Bless your heart. God wants you to be salt. He wants you to influence. Whatever influence you have today, and you have influence if you're not a Christian, but it's not good influence. It's not healthy influence. It's unhealthy influence. Won't you change that today? Won't you become a Christian today? If you don't know what you need to do, study with me, Gant. There's a lot of people here that will study with you as far as concerned. But don't waste your life, or don't waste your influence, you see. Today's all you have. Make the best of it. If you have a spiritual need this morning, won't you come as together we stand as we sing?